G'day, Keithy here. Thanks for joining me again. Glad to have you back in the garage with me right now. So you wouldn't believe it, but we are almost halfway through 2023. It's still really hot outside. I've got a bit of aircon coming in from the house and another fan in here, so that's going to help us out today. I am leaning against the Range Rover. Why does it seem that I'm always doing something on the Range Rover? This time it's both in the name of science and for saving a bit of fuel dollars. We got a bit of a problem with this LPG system that we need to get onto now, but the problem is not with the LPG system. So grab yourself a beer or a cup of coffee or whatever it is you want to drink, guys. Grab a seat and let's go and have a look inside here to see what we can find. Well, we couldn't go without checking this out.
Staring at the fires now.
Alright, so straight back from Repco now with a couple of bits. Did you have any idea of what we might be getting today? Probably did, might not have. Bosch ignition leads, spark plug leads, whatever you want to call them, for this Range Rover. And I've got 8 NGK BPR6 ES spark plugs to put in this thing as well. But wait, BPR6 ES is one heat range taller than what it should be running. Why am I going to do that? Okay, so there's a little bit of tech stuff to do with running gas and petrol in a four-wheel drive, in any engine, petrol engine that is. Usually what you would do is you would go up a size in spark plug. So from a 5 to a 6 in the NGK range. Some of them actually go the other way, so from a 9 to an 8, say for Bosch. When you're going into these Rover engines, when you're running gas, it should be the same with every other car. Why is that? Well, the requirements that the engine needs to actually run gas and to ignite it is a lot different to petrol. And the reason that we're doing this right now is not because the car is undrivable. No. It's actually really good to drive still on petrol, but it's misfiring when I'm running on gas. And I can tell you 100% right now, hard on hand, that it is not the LPG system that's the problem. Spark plugs and spark plug leads, and I would say probably 95% of it is the leads. But why? So if you watch that video up there from last time I did the plugs and leads in this thing, I did the whole lot of them. I would say about 10,000 kilometers ago. So that's not a lot for a set of spark plugs and leads. The problem is I didn't have the right heat range of spark plugs going back into this old girl. So what my theory is the spark plug leads were doing too much work and they're just wearing out. Not to the point where I can't run it on petrol still, thankfully. So I've been running on petrol for a little bit of time now. But petrol is becoming quite expensive. Gas remains about the same where I am anyway. It might be different for where you are. So I really do need to get on that. I would prefer to run this thing on gas, but this time I want to do it right. Rather than get the wrong heat range plugs, I've got the right heat range this time in the 6 for NGK and the RNGK. The ones that are in it at the moment are Bosch. If you go back to that other video, you'll remember I couldn't get the NGK plugs, but I went through Repco this time. It was actually Napa that I've got the products from, I'm not going to lie, but you can get them from Repco as well, obviously. So we'll gap these plugs like we did with the other ones in that video there. We're going to go to 7mm and then we're going to put them in, put the new plug leads in. I'm going to replace all of the leads. But before we do that, I'm going to back this thing out. And this is the reason that I'm standing in the garage still and haven't started this thing at all today. So the engine is still cold. So I can show you exactly what happens with this misfire. Now the reason that the engine is still cold is because to change over to gas, I need the engine to be over 50 degrees. So if I'd started and moved the car out already, I wouldn't be able to get this one fresh. I'll back it out and I'll put the camera in. You can watch with me using the Nanocom, which is a great little tool in this Range Rover, to diagnose exactly which cylinders are giving us the problem. After we've done all of that kind of stuff there, then we're going to go into another phase, which is going to be the fuel consumption difference. So we're going to compare what it is with the wrong spark plugs, what we can get out of it in terms of fuel consumption. Longevity, that's a long-term thing. So we're going to compare what I could get out of a tank of fuel, gas that is, regularly in this thing with what's in it now, which was roughly around 250 kilometers to a tank. Doesn't sound like much, but it's not a big tank for the gas tank. And then we're going to put the new spark plugs in at the same gap, the right gap and the right heat range with new leads, just like we did last time. We're going to do a couple of laps. Maybe I'll come back to you in a couple of days or a week, however long it takes me to use a tank of gas. And we'll do a bit of a yarn and comparison on both performance and on fuel usage with the different spark plugs. So it'd be very interesting, guys. First thing I've got to do is get this thing out, but I'll put the diagnostic gear in so you can see exactly what's happening with this MISFIRE, and we can work out exactly what cylinders are playing the game and which ones are not. So come on, let's go get this thing out. All right, so you can see the engine temp here. I hope you can see that as well as I can. 33 degrees at the moment. That's how warm it is outside here, so that's pretty accurate. 34. I put the ES in manual because to get underneath the garage door, I need this thing as low as it'll go. So bear with me, ladies and gentlemen, and then I'll show you through the Nanocom and what we're going to be looking for here. Got to get this big rig out of here first without taking out a wall. And now we're warming up, so what will happen is once we get to 51 degrees here, we'll be able to switch on to gas, which is what we want to do. I'll back out far enough here that you guys can sort of see what's going on. I hope you can see that, 43 degrees right now, the engine temperature. And I've got the Nanocom here switched on, so we're going to go Range Rover P38. Sometimes you have to touch it a few times in order to get your desired outcome. This is a Motronic. And we want to look at the ECU. So we're going to see what cylinders are firing and what they're doing. That would be under inputs. Roughness and timing sounds pretty right to me. Okay, so look at that right there. So there's roughness. It's okay. So looking at it here, they're jiggling around. Engine's cold, mind you. MISFIRE. This is the one that we want to look at here. So you can see that the figure is 0 for all cylinders right now. We're at 52 degrees here. So if I turn the gas on, theoretically we should be able to run on gas now. I'll just let the engine warm up a little bit more. Usually it would be 50, but I might let it get up to 60 degrees this time. We'll see what happens. So this is a very important part of diagnosing what's going on here. I know that at least one cylinder will misfire while we're on gas. On petrol we're okay, you can see there's nothing. When I do switch over to gas, one or many of these will probably start, the number will just climb and climb and climb as the misfire gets worse and worse on that particular cylinder. 57, that's close enough. Let's get the gas on. It'll stumble a bit because I haven't run on gas for about a month. It's changing over now. There we go, we're on gas now. Okay, cylinder 1 and 3 have both misfired. Cylinder 8 is continuously misfiring. Right there, I think, is our first problem. Cylinder number 8 is not happy. So that's something that I can check on. Cylinder 4, 5, 4, yep. So 8 and 4 are both not having a happy day. So that's 2 cylinders on the driver's side of the vehicle and right hand side for anyone playing at home. We can go straight to those cylinders and see what the problem might be. Maybe the lead's just not on there properly, or there could be something a little bit more, so we'll investigate that. Definitely 8 and 4, but we're going to replace the whole lot anyway. I'm not going to show you how to do that, but at least I know what we're looking for with the problem. So I'm going to turn the engine off now and get out and do this kind of replacement that we need to do. I'll turn back over to petrol. Misfire has stopped. Alrighty, let's make this happen. Alright, bonnet's up. So part 1 of happy fun time. Plugs and leads, we know that 8 and 4 over on this side were playing silly buggers. So we'll change them out, as we're going to change them all out anyway. We'll get them out and we'll get the new ones in, chop, and then I'll get back to you once that's all done. Alright, so long story short, it's a little bit darker than it was before. I had to go and actually get my tools because I'd left them at a family's place while I was helping rebuild a Nissan. Typical bloody Nissans, I tell you. Anyway, I've just changed number 8. So I'm going to go in, start it up now, change it over to gas, and we'll see how bad that misfire is. Just with number 8, plug only changed. So we're going to see if it was the plug that was the problem or the lead, because I did pull that plug out and it was from 7 to 8 millimeter in gap, so it's increased a tiny bit, but the plug itself actually looked half all right. So if it still has that misfire with cylinder 8, then I'm pretty sure we can bank on the fact that that lead is actually the problem here. So I'll start it up and we'll see. Okay, there's the click, so it's going to change to gas now. So it doesn't sound too bad. Oh yeah, I can feel the misfire. I can feel it, so it must have been definitely that number 8 lead rather than the plug. Just looking on it, yep, number 8 is still misfiring. Okay, so that solved that mystery. The plug was alright, but the lead was not. Alright boys and girls, so it's getting late. Thought I'd wrap this up anyway. I am covered in stuff and I've got cuts everywhere because every time you do the bloody plug leads in this thing, got to get a cut somehow. It's just not the kind of game that you can play without getting loaded with it. Anyway, I have replaced every single lead and every single spark plug with new ones. I've labelled the old ones so I can go and check them all properly once everything is said and done, which will probably be tomorrow or next day or so what. But I've just started the car, I didn't record it, and got it onto gas, and it still has that misfire. So I'm a little upset by that the plugs and leads weren't the issue. Well, it would have been good if they were the issue anyway, would have solved the problem, but I can smell a little bit of gas up there around the manifold, the gas manifold for this side of the engine. So I'm going to have a look there. There's obviously a leak, but maybe there's one of the solenoids for the injectors on the driver's side of the vehicle. It's not playing the game, so I will go and have a look through that tomorrow. Obviously right now it's a bit too late for me to keep going with this job, so I have to pack it all up. It still runs fine on petrol, don't get me wrong. Just on gas, 4 and 8, both of those cylinders are not playing the game like you saw before. So back to the drawing board for that. At least I've done the leads and the plugs, and I didn't destroy them getting them out either, so they're still good to go. I will have these ones as spares. Same with these plugs, I'll give them a little bit of a clean up and they'll be good to go as spares as well. Anyway, I will get back to you when the sun's back out again and we can go through and try and find out exactly why we're not running good on LPG. Let's stick around. Yeah, okay, so